Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you an interesting hobby video. I personally got my hands on two halves of the Leviathan Space Marines, and obviously I did one up for Leviathan week and based on a Flesh Terrors chapter, so they're all done now. I'm working through the second set a little bit at a time, and I've decided they're going to go into my Black Templars army. So obviously some conversion work is needed. I don't want to just paint the same model all over again, so I decided to tackle kind of the most complicated one today, and I'm going to cut apart and change up a whole heap of parts on the Terminator captain and give him some beautiful parts from Grey Tide Studios, and make him look as Templary as possible, and then get him painted up at the end of the video. So I'm excited to bring this to you guys, and hopefully you will enjoy that. Before I get started, just two quick things to say. One, huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to continue doing what I'm doing. You really do make the lights stay on and the camera stay rolling, so a huge thank you for that. And two, the channel has a new supporter in the face of Into the AM, who create these beautiful t-shirts. These are kind of nice, snug fitting t-shirts. I am 6'2" tall and I've got a bit of a dad bod going on, but these t-shirts fit rather well. They sit really nicely, really happy with them. And they do all sorts of crazy, funky designs. And they have some really nice deals going on at the moment. So if you can get 3 of these beautiful graphic t-shirts, and you should check out their website to see some of the crazy designs that they do have, super unique stuff, for $60. Or if you not into the crazy printed design, you can get 3 plain t-shirts, plain polo necks for $50. And if you use my code, which is down below in the description, you get an additional 10% off, and a little kickback comes back to the channel to help me out as well. So if you're interested in that, please check it out below. Before I go, one more thing, and that is I am obviously a big fan of t-shirts, but I'm more of a fan of hoodies. So let me just quickly show you one of their awesome hoodies that they sent me. I mean, need I say more? Ireland isn't the warmest place most of the year, so t-shirts aren't the best thing for us, but man, do I live and breathe in hoodies. You look at that design. This is fluorescent, so if you're in any sort of UV light, this would all glow super crazily, and I'm absolutely in love with it. So once again, huge thank you to Into the AM for helping support this channel. Check out the links below if you're interested at all. And without further ado, let's get stuck into this crazy conversion. Okay, so this is the Terminator captain from the Leviathan box set in all of his sprue glory and his base. So this is the piece that we are going to turn into a Black Templar's Martial captain. This is the one I did for my Flesh Terrors as part of Leviathan week. So this is how he looks as standard. No conversion work here at all, just painted up. Still have to do his face, so don't judge me. But he's getting there. Really happy with how he turned out. I just basically didn't want another carbon copy of this beautiful model, even though it's stunning, in another army. So I decided I'm going to lean heavily on some conversion work and get this done. I guess doing a podcast with Pete the Wargamer had a little knock-on effect and made me want to try my hand at a little bit of converting. So I printed out a whole heap of parts from Grey Tide Studios. I backed this Kickstarter, I don't know, a year or two ago, to get a bunch of Dark Angel and Black Templar parts. So I thought I'd delve into my library of bits and print off a few things that I thought would be interesting, and then clean them off and get them ready. And yeah, decide kind of afterwards. I kind of printed like 6 different heads and pairs of shoulder pads and 2 different tilt shields, and just had them all ready for seeing what would work and when, kind of thing. Also, as a precautionary, I printed 2 shields and 2 swords just in case some of the prints failed. I didn't have to reprint them, so they all printed perfectly though. So now I've got spare shields and swords, which is no bad thing. I'm sure some model will get their groovy mitts on this. So I started by cutting out all of the parts. So like I said, at this point, I don't know what parts I'm going to use and what parts I'm not going to use. So I'm going to treat this miniature as if I'm going to use all the parts. So I'm going to cut out and clean up absolutely every part of this miniature. Being careful. It does go together like a dream. Every model in the Leviathan box pretty much went together like a dream. So you'll get no complaints from me. So once I have all the parts cut out, I'm just going to do the normal thing and clean them all up. Like I said, because at this point I don't know what I'm going to be using and what I'm not going to be using. So I'm just going to remove all the flashes and mold lines off all the different bits and pieces just to be safe. This will only take kind of a couple of seconds. Taking my time using a sharp blade just to remove those little knots of sprue without taking any dents or chinks or nicks out of any of the actual parts itself. As for the base, I liked that he has kind of like 1 foot up and 1 foot down, and he was a little bit more imposing. But I don't want to have to paint a dead Screamer Killer again. It's beautiful on one of them, but I don't do it. So what I did is I basically cut down and flattened the majority of the Tyranid part itself, and just left basically a mold on the, or like a mound on his base that he's standing on. And then when I get to the texture paste stage of painting this miniature later on, I'm just going to texture paste over the whole thing, and it's just going to look like he's standing on some uneven ground. I removed some pegs from parts I knew I wasn't going to need. So for instance, the ones in the back of the head, which are going to stop the new head from going in, because there's no hole in the back of the new head that I'm putting in. It's a very quick and easy thing. Sharp knife. Removed any parts I knew I wasn't going to need. So for instance, the trophy thing he has on the back, and clean off that part with, once again, a sharp blade, making it as smooth as possible. And then it was time to remove, like if you have a hobby saw, this is obviously a lot better. I do have a hobby saw, it was just too lazy. So I just like using a sharp knife, putting a little bit of pressure and wiggling it back and forth until the hand pops free. And this is going to be the shield arm. So I'm going to glue the shield to that arm now. Obviously this thing has a brace, so there isn't really much you can do in the way of posing. It has to go in pretty much one set way. Basically like an immovable, if you will. So I did that. Same with the sword, and this is another thing where it came out like Pete the Wargamer. If I had have done this before having a conversation with him, I would have just taken my clippers and just mauled the sword off. But taking my time, being a little bit more careful, I still have this perfect sword in hand that can be used on another piece. I will save that part for later on because it's so nice. May end its way onto a Vanguard Sergeant or something. To get the sword arm in the right position, I basically put the arm in the position I wanted it to be first. Then I glued the sword in at the correct angle, so it looked like it's swept back in a really nice pose. Kind of show-offish. I'm sure this guy is an excellent swordsman. He's a Black Templar after all. Touch of super glue. Obviously the rough edge of where I cut the plastic off and the porous nature of the resin prints means that once you put a touch of super glue between the two parts, it is going to set like steel in like 1 second. Like if you tried to remove this now, you would break the blade off more than that joint would fail. So make sure you have it in the right position at the start. Stuck one of the new beautiful shoulder pads that I wanted on top of that. And the right arm is looking fairly swish, happy with that. And then I'm going to move on and basically repeat the process. So I'm going to get the left arm on with the shield, and obviously there the shoulder pad that I want for that side. The shoulder pad for that side is quite busy, really nice, bit of a pain to paint, but I did actually enjoy it. Touch super glue for his head. I went for a standard kind of like crusading knight bucket helmet style, with the cross guard going across his face in the what Templar would be befit without a nice tilt shield. This original model had 2 tilt shields, and I thought for a while I was going to put 2 tilt shields on him, but I eventually just held up a few different ones. I didn't like the look of it. I prefer the one on his left hand side, so I went with that. Once again, it has beautiful kind of Templar cross on the middle of it and everything. I put some candle motifs on top of it, and that of course led to the completion of the conversion work for this particular model. So now it was time to begin the painting stage of it. So I went for my traditional Black Templar scheme. I'm not going to go through every little bit that I did. If you want to know how I paint Black Templars, I have a whole playlist of painting up pretty every single miniature that came out for Black Templars. So Neophyte, Basic Marine, Sword Brethren, Captain, Emperor's Champion, they're all in there. So have a look at that playlist. I'll put a link at the top of the screen now. If you're curious as to how I paint Black Templars, then you obviously go back and look through that. But suffice it to say, it is based on a silver base coat. So I spray the miniature black, spray it silver, and then I use black contrast across all the armor panels. This gives it a really nice metallic black look to the armor. It works a treat. And I've got, I don't know, like 60, 70 Black Templar miniatures painted up in this particular style now. A normal beige for the shoulder details. So this is where my Black Templars differ from the standard Black Templars. The standard Black Templar shoulder trims are white. I'm not mad on the white. It just jumps out and acts as just a little bit too gaudy for me. So what I decided to do is use the same color for all of the tabards and kind of cloaks and stuff. So it's more of a beigey cream color. At the end, the model definitely looks like a Black Templar. Anyone that looks at it on the table wouldn't notice what the difference is, but the subtlety of it, I think, works a treat. And it works for that whole, if anyone's ever heard like the pyramid of color thing, the 3 points of the same color on a miniature really help tie it all together. So lots of miniatures of Templar have the loincloth or the tabardy piece. So you've got both shoulder pads, and that creates that beautiful triangle. And I think it just works really well. Obviously, the fact that I do all of the black bits first means that when you're going around doing all of these bone colors, you have to be super careful. It is a little bit time consuming, especially on a miniature as detailed as this, and where there is so many Templar crosses that need their backdrops painted in this whitey color. So yeah, it definitely took the longest amount of time, and I used my finest pointed brush and a lot of patience. And when I was doing the shield, I actually decided that because the cross is done in a way that separates the from top to bottom and from left to right, it'd be super simple to paint a quartered scheme across the shield, make it look really kind of Crusader Knight looking. So that's exactly what I decided to do. I decided to do the cream look quartered with red. This shield to me is definitely like the nicest part of my new conversion. I really wanted it to be kind of tilted forward, so as he's charging forward, if you're looking down the main silhouette of the model, you're seeing a lot of the shield. Unfortunately, with the way the arm is holding it, I couldn't make that happen, so it went down by his side, which is a little bit unfortunate. And I hope that when I do decide to show it off and bring it to a game, people will notice my cool shield, or else I'll be really sad. So the same red color was used for all of his cloth, so his big giant epic cape, and he has a little bit of tattered cloth across his right shoulder pad. Maybe that's from the days that he was a sword brethren. He still has some of his old uniform and rags left on his armor as a mark of respect, or maybe it's the cape of the last marshal who fell in battle, and he carries a part of his cape to honor him as like a slight relic. Something like that maybe jumps out, and maybe that gives you an idea of why it would be there. As you can see, there's quite a lot of that cream color on him. Over to the metallics, and I used gold for lots of the detail across the miniature. So his beautiful chest Aquila, he has a whole motif on his right leg. The entire cross on the shield, of course, went gold. And a few other trinkets and bits and pieces across the model. You just basically have to go hunting, play a game of Where's Wally, and find all the different pieces you want to do gold. You know, the crossguard and pommel of the sword is going to go gold, as it's some sort of ancient holy relic weapon. And obviously we're still in the stage where we're waiting to wash the miniature. We're still not at that stage. So we're still at the kind of gaudy, kind of ugly stage. I think it's coming together quite nicely, but the shade will definitely help pull it all together. So this is me throwing a non-oil shade across the entire miniature. This finishes off the black armor really nicely. Gives it a really nice smooth black metallic sheen, and like I said, it works a treat. And I will be painting the majority of this Leviathan box set half up as Black Templars and adding them into that force, which is now quite a considerable size, to be honest. I'm very much looking forward to adding the Brutalis Dreadnought in. That'll be my 4th Redemptor chassised Black Templars Dreadnought. And I will be once again delving into my cupboard of Grey Tide Studio files and getting all of the upgrade armor panels that they produce for their dreadnoughts. If you check out my Instagram, I'm sure you can see the my last Brutalis Dreadnought and my Redemptor Dreadnought I did with all of their parts. They look pretty cool. As you can see, after the shade, it is a matter of going back in and re-highlighting all of those areas, making that cream. So we're going to like a Ushapti bone now to go in at all those bits. And once again, very carefully, fine pointed brush, lots of patience, a good bit of time, go in and layer up all those sections to make it pop. Obviously, I will have another librarian from that set, and these guys very much do not want any librarians in their army. So he will have to go into another force. And I just finished him off on my Patreon video this month, my first one. If you are curious, my patrons do get access to an extra video every single week, so 52 extra videos a year for them. And the one that I got this week was me finishing off and layering up the librarian that I did for Leviathan week. And while I was layering it up, I noticed I talked about the Stormbolter being on the back of his hand and how cool he would be as a Grey Knight. And of course that just pinged in my head. So I'm fairly sure I'm going to convert him up to be a Grey Knight librarian and paint him up. I think he would look absolutely sick in that format. course, the Mephiston Red was brought out to highlight all of the red bits again. His big swooping cape. And of course, very carefully, the 2/4 of the shield and any other material and stuff around the miniature that you want to pop with that nice bright bit of red. As you can see, while the Null Oil shade was drying across the entire model, I did bother to base the miniature. So as you can see, I put the texture paste all over the base. So it just looks like a nice kind of uneven mound of dirt. It doesn't look weird, doesn't look out of place. You wouldn't know there's a buried, half-scoped Tyranid monster under the sand. It also helps break up the fact that this is not the same miniature as the one I painted last week. So yeah, really happy with how that turned out. I wanted to keep that elevation, hence I didn't just have him standing on a flat base. I think this base works a lot better. It's a lot more intricate. Even now, rewatching it, I'm kind of holding my breath and taking my time while I paint these bits in, because I don't want to have to touch up the black or the gold or any of the bits and pieces again. It's too nice. Now I'm over to the silver, where I go in and touch up all of the gold and silver parts of the miniature and use that to highlight all of that. It's a very quick, easy scheme. My original Black Templar videos is where I started doing this trick, where I'm using a bit of lead belcher and just kind of touch highlighting all the metallics. It works a treat. It definitely gives it that nice aged, worn look. Something that I'm super happy with. I did a couple of other bits and pieces off camera. The eyes got painted, the candles, the purity seals all got highlighted and stuff. Very quick, easy, and effective bits and pieces that I don't think are super important to show you here. But this is my finished Black Templar Marshal Captain Marshal Terminator Marshal. Is that what he would be called? Terminator Captain. I love how he turned out. I think all the conversion parts were the right choice. I think he looks super menacing. Here he is next to the original one. As you can see, he now looks quite different. And yeah, like I said, I can't wait to actually just place him on the shelf and see him stand toe to toe with the rest of my Templars. I've got a couple of high definition pictures of him here just to finish off the video. Hope you guys found it insightful. If the kind of conversion side of things or changing up bits and pieces is something that interests you and you want me to do more of it, the only way I will know to do it is if you comment below letting me know that you are excited, and I will do some more in the very near future. Okay guys, and there we have it. One Black Templars. I suppose he would be a Marshal technically, a Marshal Captain. Terminator Marshal, that would be the right way to say it. A new Terminator Marshal is fully converted up, fully painted up, and ready to serve alongside the rest of my Black Templars force. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give the video a like. Ask me any question you want in the comments below. I'll get back to all of you. And make sure you are subscribed. Algorithm tells me that about 60% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. For shame. So if you guys have stuck around to the end of the video and you're seeing this message, please take 2 seconds a day, hit that subscribe button. It really does make a huge difference. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next video.